And a great big hearty hello and welcome to all YouTube visitors. My name is Dale Kislick, and today's video is all about taking a walk out to our backwoods bush camp. Chaga chai as far as cow factor goes. Alright, so on the way out to our bush camp, we're going to stop here at this spot. This is an older bush camp that we set up a few years back. It'd be very easy to set up really quick and spend the night here for 3 people. So let's just have a look and see what exactly we had built here. So looking at the camp, what we see here is 3 beds. They're covered in snow now. Here's the first bed right over here. My finger's tracing out a line. And then there's the second bed there. And then here is a third bed. 3 raised beds. And then what we have is right here where my finger is, that's where our fire was located. So it was 1 fire for 3 shelters. Now these are super shelter types shelters. So right now all they look like is beds because that's in essence all they are. The rest of the shelter came with us in the form of plastic, mylar, and nylon. There you go. This is the bed that I chose. Within about 5 minutes of my arrival out here, I can set up my plastic super shelter over this bed and be good to go. And this is a shot of another bed. Looks like it needs a little bit of repair work, but again, super shelter, quick setup. And then over here, the third one, this is where my good friend Scott was sleeping in another super shelter arrangement. So very nice. What this allows us to do here is share 1 fire right in this area, 1 large fire for 1, 2, 3 super shelters. The reason we don't camp here so much anymore, it's a lack of water. So in the winter this is a good camp because we can melt snow and we're fire safe. But in the summer, because there's no water nearby, it makes for a dangerous camp as far as fire lighting and fire safety goes. Alright, so one of the stopping points along our walk today happens to be an old trapper's cabin. So we're just going to stop and take a quick look. Entering in here, I think the only thing that uses it now is the squirrels. Cardboard insulation in the walls. Cool. Oh, hey, look, there's a wasp nest. I'm going to take that home for some fire lighting. We had the stove. There's the hole for the stove. 1960s or 70s linoleum. Isn't that sexy? Very cool. You know, when you go well prepared into the woods, well dressed, well prepared and confident, with lots of skills and experience, it just becomes so amazing. A lot of people get really upset about winter and they really don't like winter. And I agree, driving in the snow is not much fun. Working in it's not so much fun. But boy, being out in it sure is awesome. It sure is awesome. I've learned that there's no difference between a beautiful sunset in the summer, you know, sitting there having a cup of tea, watching a beautiful sunset in the summer. It's really no different than a beautiful sunset at 30 degrees below zero, having a cup of tea, watching the sunset. It's the same thing. The difference is your preparedness and your attitude, the way you dress and the way you think. Both sunsets are equally beautiful, but it's all about you and the way you look at it. Alright, well, we made it to the family super shelter. There it is right behind me. What a great place that we have here to come out and spend time at. So we're going to go ahead inside the shelter. So keep in mind the temperature outside today is around -22. It is actually Celsius. It's warming up a bit because we're getting into the middle of the day, so it's a few degrees warmer now. But we're going to go inside the shelter, spark up a fire, and have a pot of tea and we'll see how warm we can get it inside there. Yeah, awesome, hey? Look at that, hey? It's all frozen up. And actually just back over there in the distance you can see our lean-tos too. Let's have a look inside. Oh wow, it's already quite a bit warmer in here, just getting away from the wind. Nice. Alright, so here we are inside the super shelter. We got the stove fired up, and within a few minutes of the stove being up, we've brought the temperature up inside. It is now plus 20 degrees Celsius, which is, well, 68 Fahrenheit. So just outside on the other side of this plastic, it's 20 below, minus 20. Inside here, it's plus 20, 40 degrees difference. Stove, it warms up real quick. The longer you stay in the family super shelter like this, the better it gets. The logs that the bed are made from and the ground inside here, everything just slowly starts to absorb the heat and stay consistently hot or warm, and it becomes the thermal mass of warmed heat or warmed materials. And you know, by the second night, third night that my wife and I sleep in here, we find that it just really gets nice, But I mean, for a quick warm up, it doesn't take long at all, and you're good to go. As you can see, it's, you know, it's cold outside. With the wind chill, it's minus 33, and here I am inside with bare arms and quite warm. Right here is my favorite bush tea of all. It's made by my wife. Very special mixture. Coco's Chaga Chai. Hopefully you can come and share a pot of this with me one day, because I tell you what, this tea is to die for. It is so good. Woohoo! I wanted to talk briefly about this super shelter. If you're interested in seeing how it was built, check out my videos. I've got one titled The Family Super Shelter, and it shows how I built this exact shelter that I'm sitting in right now. I've been staying in these for 16 years now. The first one I built was 16 years ago, and they take different forms and shapes, but they're a real inexpensive and fun shelter to build, and very suitable for you and your family and your friends. It does take a bit of learning and research as far as how to work a stove. If you've never worked a stove in one of these types shelters, you have to learn a little bit about stovemanship to be safe and that sort of thing. And you'll have to learn how to use a saw too to cut up your wood and that sort of thing. So I highly recommend that you experiment with these, especially if you're on a tight budget and you want to put together a cool shelter for your family somewhere in the backwoods. It's very inexpensive and easy to do. Gosh, is it ever beautiful out? So incredibly beautiful out here today. So we're going to just go on a tour of our little bush camp here. Just a short while ago we had a moose camp out here, and there was about a dozen of us that slept out here in various shelters. One of the shelters that we did use was the one you see behind me now, the family super shelter. And I have a video on that one. So there it is, having a look right at that. Right now the stove is on and it's pumping heat out there right now, but cool. Anyways, and as we move this way, away from the super shelter, we get over to a series of lean-tos here, a double lean-to, and you can see that there's two lean-tos facing one another here. These were put up by two fellas, one who's a very, very excellent survival bushcraft instructor, Kelly Harleton is his name, and a good friend of mine who's a trapper and a hunter and outdoorsman. His name is Scott Williams, and that's his bed right there, and Kelly's bed is right over here. So yeah, nice little shelter. They've got a way to hang the pots here, pot suspension rig right there, so they hang that down. But basically, this shelter here that I'm sitting in, Kelly's shelter, it's a small lean-to. You don't want to build it any bigger than you have to. Comfortably sit on this bed right here. I'll just get up, move back a ways, and I'll just point out a couple of features about these couple of lean-tos. So this one that we're looking at right here, Kelly's, it's got a bed chair seat high, because the fire, of course, doesn't heat completely sideways. A fire will heat in a cone shape, right? The heat will go up and to the sides. So you want to get your bed up nice and high. A bed right down on the ground is no good. It's cold because it's right on the ground, and also you're not collecting or intercepting the path of the heat from the fire. So you want to get up about chair seat high, which it is. And then you want to have the back of it as close to you as you possibly can, so that the back intercepts the heat from the fire as well, and it's right behind you. So there's not room to move around in this shelter, but that's not the point. This is for getting sleep, okay? This is for getting the rest that you require. All right, and then the bed, it had green boughs on it, but they've since fallen off due to age, right? The needles fall off, and all that you're left with is the twigs. The fire is nice and close. Okay, it's only even a half step away, so you're right nice and close to the fire. Same thing with Scott's shelter, right nice and close to the shelter. And yeah, pretty good. These fellas, they've stayed in these shelters in temperatures down to -10, -12, and they could easily go into temperatures down into -20, -30 degrees Celsius. I've done it myself. I've stayed in shelters at -37 degrees Celsius. In order to do that, you'll notice that you use a heck of a lot of firewood to spend the night in a shelter like that. So let's move on, and we'll just, as I'm walking by, you can kind of see the back of the shelter. Now they could improve this shelter a lot by patching up the holes. We haven't stayed here for a few weeks now, but in coming back in bitter cold, if it was me, I'd put some spruce boughs on there, and then if there's any amount of snow that you can scrape up, I'd cover it with snow up to at least this high if I could, and try and make that an impregnable wall so that all the heat from the fire is captured and collected inside the lean-to. So as we walk through the camp, now we're heading over to a couple of other shelters. These shelters, this area here, the reason that we chose this for our bush camp, first of all, when I was looking for a place to locate a shelter in arboreal forest, I pretty much always head for water, and I pretty much always head for beaver ponds or beaver dams. Whenever there's a beaver pond or a beaver dam, you're going to find lots of shelter building materials. So what I mean by that is the beavers, as you can see right here, the pond is just over the hill there, and the beavers are active. See all the stumps right here? There's one stump, there's another, okay, there's another. All of these stumps are previously chewed down in years gone by by beavers. So it gives you a lot of shelter building material that you don't need to cut. You can bust a lot of it down and pull it up off the ground and build shelters. So I always look for a beaver lodge if I can find one, a beaver pond, and plus then you have a source of water, and water for drinking, but also water for putting out your fires and that sort of thing. Heading over to another shelter now. This is a combo shelter. We've kind of modified it and played around with these two shelters a little bit. These are a couple of lean-tos. Let me just see if I can get a bigger view there. Yeah, there we go. So this lean-to over here, we've taken wood from it and burned it up. We haven't used these two in a while, but the last time that we did use it, we haven't used, when I say we haven't used it in a while, it's because we haven't had people sleeping on it for a few years. So we've slowly been stealing from it and burning up the shelter. So the last time we did use this area, though, was a few weeks ago in moose camp. We had about a dozen people, and this served our purpose really nicely for a great place to sit people. And we socialized and visited into the evening hours in the dark after our hunt during the day. We were eating snowshoe hare, and we ate grouse, ruffed grouse. We had bear meat, we had moose meat, and you know, all cooked on the fire, and everybody was gathered around the fire. So somewhat disassembled as far as a shelter goes, but it served its purpose really well for us to utilize as a large group sitting area. So as we take a closer look at it here, we've got some pot suspension rigs. So we had 3 of these hanging, so we could hang 3 pots over a large parallel fire, and that way we could keep everybody warm. And yeah, and nice. The other thing too that we had with us that night, we had a bit of a tarp. And a really quick way to get a nice backing on your shelter, of course, is to just throw a tarp up. So we had a tarp on the back here, and that way you could sit down there and be somewhat protected from the wind and collect some more heat from the fire. And as we move along here to another couple of shelters, these shelters as well haven't been used in a little while, and so we've been robbing from them as well. We took a little bit of wood off of this shelter right here and stole it for some firewood. But it's another typical lean-to type setup. Not too bad. The people that stayed in this were pretty well off. You can see right through it, of course. It would need to be chinked and patched if a person was to stay here. But it wouldn't take a lot of work to get this one usable again. And the fellows that built this too, they had built a little stacked debris wall there. Not sure if they were trying to use it to block the wind, or if they were trying to use it for just a place to stack their firewood or what, but I mean, it serves both those purposes, right? And then their fire was right down here in the center, and then spinning and turning just like that over to this shelter, we get a look at this little funky little guy here. Now it's pretty neat as far as cool factor goes, but as far as practicality and function, I'd be fairly critical of this shelter. So the first thing of all is the slope of it it's too low of a slope. So I mean, if it was raining in the summer, the water would just simply come right through there and you'd get soaked inside that. You need a steep pitch, okay, a really steep pitch on the back of your shelter to shed that rain. The only way around that on this shelter, you'd really have to cover it with a lot of debris and stuff to make it waterproof. So a little bit too much of a slope. The back corners back there, being that they're so low, if there was a fire right where I'm kneeling, the heat from that fire just wouldn't ever get back to the back of that shelter. It's just not going to reach there. The physics of the way the fire operates, it'll be cold back in there, and all that coldness will of course come through to you. And then the bough bed, not nearly thick enough and not high enough. As I talked about earlier, you'd want it chair seat high, so the bed seat should actually be probably about this height instead of down there. In the summer, okay, sure, maybe you can get by with that. But as far as a winter shelter goes, not really. I wouldn't go for this. And the other thing is, it's a bit of a pain in the butt to have to get down so low all the time. Humans are built to sit in chairs. We really are. We're much more comfortable than that. I mean, we could, I suppose, train yourself to be comfortable sitting on the floor like they do in many countries in the world. But typically here in North America, we're used to sitting on couches and chairs and at kitchen tables and that sort of thing. I'm much more comfortable working on crafts and stuff sitting up higher. So this would be somewhat problematic to get into and sit and work on a craft at night sitting around the fire. So there you go. And then somebody found, looks like a bone here, and they just hung it up here with some snare wire for fun, I guess. But yeah, so just to look at our shelters a little bit. The area that we're in, as I said, beaver ponds. So there is, if we look this way, there's just an incredible amount of firewood everywhere you look, and that's all drop down largely due to the activity of the beavers. Mixed forests, so we've got lots of coniferous trees, lots of deciduous trees, a lot of animals around here, and water, and that sort of thing. And right in our camp we've got a bunch of precious items like Labrador tea that we've got right here. Love this stuff. We drink an awful lot of that up here. Yeah, indicated by its rusty, fuzzy undersides of the leaves. And boy, we drink lots of this tea, so we've got it right in our camp. We're feeling really lucky about that. All the stuff that I use, all the stuff that I use typically for shelter building, and it's all right here. We've got boughs right here. We've got cattails down in the beaver pond. We've got deciduous trees, leafy trees. We've got a lot of birch and Saskatoon saplings, which are flexible saplings for building super shelters and arched shelters and that sort of thing. There's a copious amount of firewood. There's just pretty much everything that you need that the Boreal Forest has to offer as far as a good camp location. So love this spot, and it's also kind of out of the way and hidden. So what we're trying to do with that, we make it difficult to get to and inaccessible. We try to find a spot where there's nobody with quads or snowmobiles coming in. We try to. People do still find their way in, and of course one group came in here at some point when we were away, and looks like they had a fire in our super shelter, and they left a bunch of beer cans all over the place, scattered beer cans on the trail coming into our shelter. And right, so even though we tried to conceal the camp and keep it hidden from people, people still find it. So thanks for coming on a tour of our little bush camp. Keep watching our videos. We'll be doing shout out announcements at some point. Keep checking our website for course notifications or for shout outs on YouTube for upcoming courses. And maybe you'll find that one day you'll be able to come out to the camp and spend the night in one of these shelters, or help us put together a new and fantastic shelter that you can stay in on your own.